Hello and welcome to another AIC Productions video. Today we're going to be going over my Ethereum mining machine again. I'm not actually going to go over Ethereum mining itself. We're going to be going over some upgrades. When I first built this machine, I only threw 4 gigs of memory in there because that's what I had budget for, and at the time I didn't think I was going to need it. But with just the Ethereum miner running and nothing else going on, you can see I'm running at 40% memory usage here. And I'm sorry, I'm just recording the screen. I still haven't found my screen capture device yet. I still have a bunch of boxes to unpack. If I open Chrome up, we get up to 50%, 51% before we even start going and surfing any web pages. If we go ahead and just go to YouTube, and we'll just click on a video here and let that load up. No audio. We're pushing almost 60% memory consumption there. And it definitely has a performance hit on the system. The other problem I'm running into is this local storage here. The M.2 drive was only 120 gig, usable is only 111 gigs. And just with installing Windows, Office, a couple of games, I only have 27 gigs free. So I've purchased, as I drop everything, come on, that's not going to focus, let me turn the screen off. There we go. Some Patriot memory to go into the system. I just bought another 4 gigs. 8 gigs should be plenty on this system. I don't think I need more than a total of 8 gigs. And then for additional storage, I picked up this drive. It's a Mushkin Reactor, 240 gigs. It was only $70 for this, or excuse me, I take that back. It was $83. I was looking at another one that with tax ended up being $90. This one through Amazon didn't require tax, and so it was $83 same day Amazon Prime shipping. And that for 240 gigs SSD, that was pretty inexpensive. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to shut down the machine, and we'll throw these puppies in there, and then we'll do some of the performance testing that I do on the laptops and some of the other systems I reviewed to see what kind of performance we're getting out of the system before and during running with the Ethereum miner, since I'm sure people want to know what it's like to run games and things like that with the Ethereum miner going. So we'll stop here for a moment. I'll be back in just a moment once we have these installed. Alright, so we have the memory installed, and already we can see it is so much better hanging around after a fresh boot at just 28. And that should go down after this anti-malware services executable goes away. That usually eats quite a few resources, especially after a recent reboot. However, the new storage isn't showing up, so we'll go ahead and set that up. If you haven't done that before, it's pretty easy. You go to computer management. You also go to control panel, advanced, and then computer management, but you can also just search for computer management. You go under disk management, and we have a new disk here. Go ahead and hit OK. Yeah, it's 223 gigabytes unallocated. We'll go ahead and do new simple volume. Give it drive letter E is fine. Doesn't need a name. And there we go. We have a new drive here where I can put some additional files on here. I may move the Ethereum miner to here, but we will see. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is play some games. Now I am running just the 2 graphics cards. Camera here up just a little bit. And again, I apologize for just shooting my camera straight at the screen. I don't have my capture device. I'm not quite sure where it is right now. It may just be easier at this point to buy another one. Unfortunately, they're like $100. One thing I will note is I did buy some new fans for my system, and they are amazing. I'll put a link to those in the description below. But they are so much quieter. I think I spent, it was under 10 bucks a fan, which is half as much as a Noctua, and that was recommended. And they are so much quieter. In fact, I don't think they're any louder than the computer was with just the power supply fan and the CPU fan. I don't think they add any additional noise to it, especially when it's under my desk. The power supply fan, the PSU fan, is kind of noisy, but it's not totally off-putting. If I were to go and try to make this more quieter, I'd definitely look at replacing the power supply. But at this point, there's nothing wrong with my power supply, so I don't see any need to do that. Anyways, graphics fancy, smooth lighting maximum. These are just some of the settings I've set. VSync on, particles all, clouds fancy, full screen off, render distance 12 chunks. So you see how I have it set. I turn some of these up, and that way I don't get killed. You can see how smooth and everything is. It looks really nice and clean. I'll have it draw some new chunks for us here. We're getting 60 frames a second solid. It's not dropping at all. It does use the just one of the GPUs for Minecraft here. Now I know Minecraft isn't the most graphics intensive game out there, but it is one of the most popular games, so I figured that most people would be interested in this. We'll go ahead and close out of this. Yeah, it hasn't moved from 60 frames, so it definitely can do more than 60 frames a second, but it's just stuck at that max 60 frames. So the 1050 Ti is more than powerful enough for this kind of game. So let's close out of this. Go ahead and open up Guild Wars 2. I didn't think to open this. It's been a day or two since I've played, so probably have some downloads. It always has downloads. I love Guild Wars, but that's one thing with having a MMO. There's always lots of updates. Let's go here, go to options. So we're getting 115 frames a second. On this I have animations are high, anti-aliasing is FXAA, environment is low, LOD distance is low. So let's go ahead and change this to best appearance. So it sets everything to high, and it drops our frame rate down to 90 frames a second, 89 frames a second. So what it originally was just the default settings. I never changed it from when I first installed the game. And we're getting, the lowest we've gotten is 61 frames a second, which is extremely playable. I mean, and this game has a lot going on in the background. So yeah, it definitely takes, I wouldn't say it takes a very powerful GPU, but it definitely takes one with a fair amount of memory, especially when you get to the point where you're playing bigger battles and you have a lot going on the screen, a lot of characters moving around, a lot of NPCs moving around, a lot of effects. So yeah, but yeah, it looks, in my opinion, it looks gorgeous. I love this game for its visuals. Whoever the artists were for this game, I applaud them. It's one of the most aesthetically pleasing games I've played. I think ever. I mean, it really is a beautiful game. I'm sure there's other games out there that people will say to them, but of the games I play and play on a regular basis, it's definitely up there. So we'll go ahead and close out of here, and we will step away for just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and do a performance bench test. It takes 5-10 minutes to do, so we'll get that out of the way, and then we will be back in just a moment. We're just running through the tests right now, and it's doing the 3D tests, and it's on this particular test it's getting 73, 69, 107, 160 something, 100 or 70, 115. Most of the time on this test, I don't think I ever get much into the double digits on any other systems. Now typically I test systems that are about $300, and I have over $700 invested in this system at this point. But it's just so funny to see such a much better result on a system from what I'm used to seeing, just because I run such low-end systems for my YouTube channel. Typically, like 144, 133 frames a second on this test. And I usually get like 6 on some of these, so we should get a much better score than what you're used to seeing with my inexpensive laptop reviews. It's just an observation I had while running these tests. Alright, so the pass mark test has finished with a 4080. That's 84th percentile. It definitely far exceeds anything else I've done. I think the best I have is a little over 2,000 on pass mark. What's funny is the drive in here, that M.2 drive, I used in another system, and this it outperforms my other system significantly by over 1,000 points on the disk with the same drive. So I'm not quite sure what gives it the performance boost here, if it's not bottlenecked by the CPU or memory. The 3D graphics mark, I think my highest other system is barely over 1,000, so it crushes there. 2D, same thing. A lot of the systems I test are in the 200 to 300 mark. Again, the difference is a $150 to $300 laptop versus a desktop with a fully fledged graphics card in it. The two of them actually. I almost kind of want to pull one of the graphics cards and just see what if there's any difference in performance, but I'm not going to do that with you today. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. Let's exit that. We don't need to upload. Go ahead and start the miner and get that going. Let me zoom in here. Sorry. Didn't have that done before. Still starting up here. Alright, so now that we have the miner going, it's giving us our GPU temps and fan speeds, which they're fairly cool right now. We're running on the first GPU is 12.861, second one we're running on 12.413. Now this is the card that's plugged directly into the motherboard. This is the one that's on a riser. For whatever reason, this one runs cooler than this one, so I have this one slightly clocked higher. And you'll notice when we go to play games, this one will actually drop in mega hash, where this one does not, at least not significantly. So let's go ahead and fire up Minecraft again. And I won't full screen it. We're going to leave this down here to where we can see it. I'll make Minecraft fill most of the screen. and I haven't changed any settings. You'll notice that the frame rates are pretty significantly dropped, where before they were pegged at 60 frames a second. We're in the 49 to 46 there, up to the mid 50 range. I'll pop up and make it draw a lot more. So having the miner run in the background now, that I think the miner might have not started properly. Let's restart that. You see down here, we're at 11.285, and this is still at 12.83. And that's pretty typical. If I do something more intensive, it'll drop down to as low as 10. And we're getting 42 frames a second, which is still what I would consider very playable. And I'm sure if I were to go in and drop some of the settings down, so we didn't have fancy graphics and things, the frame rates would be higher. But you can still play games while mining Ethereum and still have a playable experience with your game. Let's go ahead and close out of Minecraft. And so as soon as I close out, it jumps right back up again. And then let's go ahead and open Guild Wars again. So as we're opening Guild Wars, it drops it back down. So anything that requires the GPU, it drops it down. So if you're watching, say, a YouTube video, or you're playing any kind of game that's doing anything graphical on the screen, it will drop your mega hash down. Now it's not terrible, but it does drop it. So here we are. Again, I haven't changed any of the settings. Go to options, and we're having 22, 18, 24, 22 frames a second. So it definitely has reduced our frame rate significantly in Guild Wars to be on high. So if we go ahead and just go to auto detect, it drops it down. We're getting closer to 30 frames a second, which is a lot better. We drop it to best performance. There we go. So I click on the right thing. We're up in the mid 40s, low 50s. So I'm probably going to die here because I can't see what's going on the screen. So this one definitely is more affected by the miner running in the background, but it also requires a lot more resources than, say, a game like Minecraft. But it's still what I would consider definitely playable while the mining is happening in the background. So you don't have to have a machine solely dedicated to mining if you just want to have it mine while you're not using it, basically. I could technically turn off the miner right now and enjoy my computer, play some games, and then turn it back on, but I'm willing to drop my performance down a little bit to be able to play games and have mining happening at the same time. Close out of this. Alright, and see we're down to 9 mega hash a second. We'll let it hit the next update here, and it should be back up to 11.5 to 12 pretty quickly, if not all the way up to 12.5. And while that's updating, let's go ahead and open up. So this is the Gigabyte software that came with the cards to, see, already up to 12.077. So for GPU 0, I have the GPU clocked down by 5 megahertz, the memory clocked up by 788 megahertz, and the power limit down 10%. Card 2, I have the same GPU clock down by 5 megahertz, power limit 10%, but I only have a 602 megahertz clock on here. And the reason for that is I wanted to keep my temperatures below 70 degrees Celsius. In fact, GPU 0 I can actually probably bump up a little bit if I wanted to, but since this is in my office, I do have to be in here when I'm working from home and whenever I'm using my computer. So I wanted the office to be not too hot, so I want to keep the temperatures down. So that's what I have it clocked to, and it seems to be doing okay. I may mess around with this a little bit more, but during the day we let our house get a little bit warmer, and so I don't want to cook it. As we get on to the fall and winter, I'll probably be clocking that higher, because I could just leave the door open, the window open, and let the heat go outside versus into the rest of the house. It's still Arizona, it's still summertime in Arizona, and it's 110 and 30% humidity outside right now. And so anyways, definitely very usable. I'm very glad I upgraded the memory and the storage on here. It'll make the computer a lot more usable as well. If you have any questions about anything I'm doing with this system, feel free to ask in the comment section down below. I do my best to answer any reasonable question. I won't be playing any games on here that I don't already own. I keep getting asked to do that unless somebody's willing to gift me a game. If I'm not going to play the game, I'm not going to spend the money on the game. So I'm just going to be honest there. But thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day. And if you are interested in any of the products I've purchased for the system, I'll put links down in the description. I do that with most of my videos. I try not to advertise too much, but if you like these videos, I do have a link in the description for my Amazon partner link. If you click on that and purchase anything, I do get a very small percentage of that, and it helps me fund these projects. I have my other project with my Mazda Speed Protege that I have going on, and so I'd love support with that. It is the last one that they made, and so I would definitely want to take my time and try to do some restoration. I'm not going to do any crazy modifications to it, but just make it as nice a vehicle as I can. So yeah, thanks for watching again, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.